The storm was loud enough to drown out thoughts, and Melinda welcomed the noise. She sat at her small kitchen table, papers scattered in front of her, the flickering light bulb above casting erratic shadows across the room. Rain pounded against the windows like desperate hands. It was the kind of night that made memories crawl out of the cracks in the walls. She hadn't thought about Carol in weeks, maybe even months, but tonight her name lingered in Melinda's chest like a bruise. She stared at the old photograph stuck to her fridge with a fading magnet. Two girls on a swing, one laughing with her head thrown back, the other gazing at her like she was the sun. Carol, her first everything, her last heartbreak. She disappeared one night, 13 years ago, without a word. No note, no trace. Just gone. Melinda had cried herself hollow back then, the pain blooming so violently it had felt like death. And then, like all pain eventually does, it dulled. Enough to function. Enough to forget almost. A loud knock tore her from her thoughts. She blinked, heart stuttering. Who would be out in this weather? She opened the door. Her breath caught. The rain swirled around the figure on her doorstep, a trench coat clinging to a tall frame, hood soaked and plastered to a face she hadn't seen in over a decade. Mel. The voice rasped, low and cracked like dry leaves. I didn't know where else to go. Melinda couldn't move. Her mind refused to bridge the gap between memory and the woman in front of her. Carol looked otherworldly, pale, almost luminescent under the storm's flashes. Her eyes, those deep green eyes she used to dream about, now glinted unnaturally in the dark. Melinda felt every hair on her body rise. She should slam the door, call someone, scream. But instead, her fingers reached out, trembling, as if magnetized by the impossible. Carol? Her name fell like a prayer. Carol stepped into the light, hesitant, dripping rain and something unspoken. I didn't die, she whispered. But I'm not the same either. Melinda stepped back instinctively. Her body screamed danger even as her heart howled with longing. Carol removed her hood slowly. Her skin was flawless, too perfect. Her lips, red like they'd been painted with fresh blood. And her teeth, when she opened her mouth slightly, Melinda saw them. Sharp, elongated. I was taken, Carol said, her voice shaking. They turned me. I tried to stay away. I really did. But I couldn't. I had to see you again. Melinda stared at her, heart pounding so loud she could barely hear the storm anymore. Every cell in her body battled between fear and something far more dangerous, desire. Carol took another step forward. Do you hate me? She asked, voice breaking. I wouldn't blame you. Melinda didn't answer. Couldn't. The air between them crackled like lightning, thick with pain and unfinished stories. Then Carol collapsed. Melinda didn't remember moving, but somehow she was on her knees beside Carol, the cold from her drenched clothes seeping into the floorboards like a stain. She touched her, cautiously, reverently, and Carol flinched at the contact, still conscious but trembling, her breath uneven. I'm okay, Carol murmured, voice almost inaudible. I haven't fed in days. The words echoed in Melinda's mind like a gunshot. Federal. Her hand jerked back instinctively, but Carol didn't move to follow or plead. She just closed her eyes, ashamed. Melinda stood and stared down at her, this stranger with her old love's face. 100 thoughts clashed in her skull. She should be terrified. She should run. But her chest ached with something much older than fear. Memories bloomed without permission, Carol's laugh echoing down the school hallway, her fingers brushing Melinda's under the table in chemistry class, that last kiss before she vanished, the one Melinda replayed every night for years. Come on, she muttered, turning away before her emotions swallowed her whole. She came back with a towel and helped Carol to the couch. Her movements were stiff, mechanical, but the way her eyes kept drifting back to Carol's face betrayed her resolve. Carol curled up slowly, clutching the towel like it could anchor her to this world. Her skin was still too pale, and she shook like a leaf. Melinda lit a candle. The storm had knocked out the power, and the flickering light danced over Carol's features, casting shadows where human expressions used to live. "What happened to you?" Melinda asked at last, her voice hoarse. Carol looked at her with eyes that no longer belonged to the girl she once loved. "I was taken," she said simply. "It was the night I disappeared. I went out to meet you. I never made it." Melinda's throat closed. "You were supposed to meet me at the lake," she whispered. Carol nodded. "I was walking through the woods. Someone grabbed me. I never even saw their face. I woke up underground. Cold. Hungry. Alone." Melinda wrapped her arms around herself. "And then, I changed. Slowly. I died, and came back as this." She gestured at herself like the word monster hung unspoken in the air. "I tried to come back for you. I watched from the shadows sometimes. But I wasn't strong enough to stay away this time." Silence settled over the room like a blanket too heavy to breathe under. Melinda sat down in the armchair opposite her, feeling every heartbeat like a countdown. "Why now?" Carol hesitated. "Because they're looking for me. The ones who made me. I broke their rules. I escaped. And when they find out I came here," she stopped, jaw tightening. "You're in danger just by letting me in." Melinda rose sharply. "Then why did you come?" "Because I love you," Carol said, so quietly it almost didn't register. "I never stopped. I needed to see you one last time. I needed to know if there was still something left in you for me." The storm howled like an answer outside. Melinda stood frozen, every part of her pulled in two directions, logic screaming for distance, and longing dragging her closer. "Do you still feel it?" Carol asked, lifting her eyes to meet Melinda's. "Even a little?" Melinda didn't speak. She crossed the room slowly, stopping just inches away. Her fingers brushed a wet lock of Carol's hair back behind her ear. The touch was electric. Carol inhaled sharply. "I don't know what I feel," Melinda whispered. "But I know I never forgot you. And I know I don't want you to leave." Carol's breath caught. Her lips parted, fangs barely visible now. "Mel, but I need to understand," Melinda added, stepping back. "What happens if you don't feed?" Carol looked down at her hands. "I get weaker. I lose control. Hunger takes over eventually. I don't want you to see that." "Would you hurt me?" Carol's head snapped up, eyes wide with pain. "Never." Melinda searched her face, desperate to believe. She should be afraid, but there was something in Carol's eyes, behind the unnatural glow, that still felt like home. "I'll figure something out," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "But first, you need to rest." Carol nodded, visibly struggling to stay upright. "I don't dream anymore," she said softly, like it was a confession. "But I still remember what it felt like to dream of you." Melinda's heart clenched. She brought over a blanket, draping it over Carol's frame. For a long moment, she just stood there, staring down at the girl who had broken her and was now shattered herself. As Carol finally drifted into a shallow, twitching sleep, Melinda didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on the vampire on her couch. And through the storm, just barely audible over the wind, came a new sound, a soft, deliberate knock at the back door. The knock at the back door was not timid. It came again, louder, slower, 3 deliberate strikes that made Melinda's blood turn to ice. Her entire body froze. Carol stirred slightly on the couch, her sleep restless, face pale even in the dim candlelight. Melinda turned toward the back of the house, eyes locked on the shadowy hallway that led to the rear entrance. Another knock. Louder. She moved like someone underwater, silent, every footstep muffled by the storm's growl outside. Her hand hovered near the doorknob but didn't touch it. Instead, she pressed her ear to the wood. Nothing. No breath, no footsteps. Just the wind and the furious pounding of her heart. Then a voice, low, melodic, and far too calm. "Melinda." She jerked back, breath catching in her throat. Whoever was on the other side knew her name. "Open the door," the voice said. Male. Smooth like silk, but with an undercurrent of menace. "We don't want to make a mess." "We." Her stomach dropped. She turned and ran back into the living room. Carol had already risen, eyes open now, sharp and glowing faintly in the candlelight. "You heard it," Melinda whispered. Carol nodded, rising slowly, her movements deliberate but strained. "How did they find you?" Melinda asked. "I don't know," Carol murmured. "But they did." The air shifted. The temperature dropped. Carol's eyes met hers, filled with something Melinda hadn't seen before. Fear. Real fear. "We can't open it," Carol said. "If they get inside, they won't stop. Not until I'm dead." "Or worse?" Melinda asked, her voice breaking. "Or worse," Carol confirmed. Melinda ran to the front door, locked it, then every window she could reach. Carol followed, though slower, every movement showing the toll her hunger had taken. "They won't wait outside forever," she said. "They don't need permission to come in?" "No," Carol whispered. "Not when the bond is broken." "What bond?" "The one I shattered when I ran." Another knock. Now from the front. Melinda spun, heart leaping. "Two of them." "At least," Carol whispered, backing toward the hallway. "Get your things. I'm not leaving you." "You might have to," Carol snapped, voice sharper than it had been all night. Melinda's chest constricted.
"No."
"I'm not running. Not without you." Their eyes locked. For a moment, nothing existed but the space between them and the electricity humming through it. "I came back to protect you," Carol said. "Not to destroy your life." "Too late," Melinda murmured. "You're already in it again." Before Carol could respond, the front window shattered. Melinda screamed, ducking as glass exploded inward, slicing through the candlelit quiet like thunder. A figure climbed through the broken frame, tall, lean, and inhumanly fast. Melinda scrambled backward, but Carol stepped between them, baring her teeth. The intruder stilled, his eyes, glowing amber, locking onto Carol's. "Hello, fledgling," he said. "You've made quite the mess." Carol's stance trembled. "Leave her out of this." "Oh, but she let you in," he smiled, fangs gleaming. "Which means she belongs to us now, too." "The hell she does," Carol snarled, lunging. Their bodies collided, a blur of motion, too fast for Melinda to track. Furniture toppled, glass shattered again, and Carol slammed the stranger into the wall, cracking the drywall. "Run," Carol screamed. But Melinda didn't. She grabbed the fireplace poker and charged. The male vampire threw Carol off him with terrifying ease and turned just in time to catch Melinda's wild swing. The poker hit his shoulder, uselessly, and he smiled. "Brave," he whispered, grabbing her wrist. Pain shot up her arm. Stupid, but brave. Then Carol was there again, tackling him to the ground. "Don't touch her," she roared, her voice breaking into something monstrous. Her eyes blazed red now, her fangs fully out, and for the first time, Melinda saw what Carol had become. Not just a victim, not just a woman changed, but something deadly, something terrifying, something beautiful. They fought savagely. Carol clawed and bit, moving with animal ferocity. But she was weak, and he was winning. He pinned her, baring her throat. "You should have obeyed," he hissed. "You were one of the finest. Then why did you cage me?" Carol spat. "Because you were dangerous. And now I finish what I started." "No!" Melinda screamed, grabbing a shard of glass from the floor and hurling herself at him again. She didn't know what she was doing, but adrenaline roared through her. The glass sank into his neck, barely, but enough to make him howl. He turned, shoved her hard, and Melinda hit the wall, pain blooming in her ribs. But it gave Carol the second she needed. She flipped him, her eyes glowing like fire, and drove her claws into his chest with a snarl that didn't sound human. He writhed, screamed, and finally stilled. Silence. Breathing hard, Carol stood, her shirt soaked in blood, not her own. She turned slowly toward Melinda, face unreadable. "Are you hurt?" she asked, voice hollow. "Just bruised," Melinda gasped. "Are you?" "No, not mine." They stared at each other, shaking, panting. "What the hell was that?" Melinda asked. "A warning," Carol whispered. "More are coming." He wasn't alone. Then we can't stay here, Melinda said, voice trembling. No, Carol agreed. We run. But I won't survive another fight like that unless… Unless what? Unless I feed. Melinda swallowed. On me. Carol's eyes closed for a moment.
No.
I'd never ask that. Not yet. But we'll find another way. Lightning split the sky again, and in that moment, love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. The girl Melinda had once loved and the creature she had become stood side by side, bloodied, broken, but alive. And Melinda knew one thing for certain. She wasn't letting her go again. The engine of Melinda's old car roared louder than the storm as they tore down the dark country road, headlights slicing through the rain like knives. Her hands trembled on the wheel, not from the near-death battle they'd just survived, but from the woman sitting silently in the passenger seat, soaked in blood that wasn't hers, trembling with a hunger that made the air between them feel charged, unstable. Carol hadn't said a word since they fled the house. Her face was ghostly, eyes shut tight, jaw clenched so hard Melinda could hear the faint grinding of her teeth. How far do we have to go? Melinda asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Carol didn't open her eyes. Farther than we can get tonight. There's an old cabin, Melinda said after a beat. My uncle's. It's in the woods past Maple Ridge. No one's used it in years. Carol opened her eyes slowly. They glowed faintly in the dark interior of the car. Will we be safe there? Safer than anywhere else right now. Carol nodded once, then looked out the window. The silence stretched between them, heavy and trembling. Melinda stole a glance at her. The dried blood on her cheekbone, the tension in her shoulders, the way she clutched the edge of the seat like she was holding herself together. Carol, Melinda said quietly. How bad is it? The hunger? Carol's voice was rough, hollow. Bad. Will it make you lose control? Carol didn't answer right away. It's not like being drunk or high. It's more like drowning. You know what's happening, but you can't stop it. Your instincts take over. You forget who you are. Melinda gripped the wheel tighter. But you haven't hurt me. Because I'd rather die. That made Melinda's throat close. She pressed harder on the gas, trees blurring past, the road slick and narrow. We'll get there soon, she said. You'll be okay. Mel, Carol whispered, eyes still on the window. Why are you helping me? Because I loved you, Melinda said, surprising even herself with the honesty. I don't know what this is now, or what you've become, but I never stopped loving who you were. And I can't turn my back on you. Carol finally looked at her, something breaking open in her expression. You shouldn't, she said. You should run far away. Maybe, Melinda murmured. But I won't. They reached the cabin just after midnight. It was small, worn from time, half swallowed by trees, but still intact. Melinda used the spare key hidden under the third rock to the left of the porch, just like she remembered, and they stepped inside. Dust coated everything. The air smelled of wood rot and forgotten summers. Melinda lit a single lamp and turned to Carol, who stood just inside the doorway, unmoving. It's not much, she said, suddenly self-conscious. Carol didn't respond. Her eyes were locked on Melinda, but not like before. This time it was raw, wild. Melinda froze. Carol? I shouldn't be here, Carol whispered. You smell like everything I've ever wanted. Melinda's heart skipped. Then take it, she said before she could stop herself. Carol flinched. Don't say that. Why not? Melinda stepped closer. You said you'd rather die than hurt me. I believe you. Believing me doesn't make you safe, Carol said, backing up. You don't understand what it's like to want something and fear it at the same time. I do, Melinda said. I'm looking at you. The silence snapped between them. Carol's breath hitched. You don't mean that. I do, Melinda whispered. I never stopped wanting you. Even now. Carol turned away sharply, fists clenched. If I touch you, I won't be able to stop. Not from hunger. Not from anything. Melinda stepped closer, placing a hand on her back. The contact made Carol shudder. "Then don't stop," she whispered. Carol turned slowly, her eyes burning now, her fangs barely showing. "You don't know what you're saying." "I do." Carol's control slipped. One moment there was space between them, and the next, Carol's hands were on Melinda's waist, her body pressed against hers, her breath hot and ragged against Melinda's neck. "Say no," she growled. "Say stop." Melinda wrapped her arms around her, heart racing. "I won't." Carol kissed her then, hard, desperate, like something broken trying to become whole. Her lips were cold, but the fire between them ignited instantly. Melinda moaned into her mouth, fingers digging into Carol's back. The hunger was there, yes, sharp and dangerous, but it wasn't just blood Carol craved. It was her. All of her. Their mouths moved together like memory and promise, like a fuse finally lit. Carol pulled back, panting, eyes wild. "I can't, Mel, I need." "Take it," Melinda breathed. "Just enough." Carol hesitated, her forehead resting against Melinda's. "I'll go slow," she whispered. "Tell me to stop if you feel anything wrong." "I trust you." Carol pressed her lips to Melinda's neck, her breath shaky. Then the bite. It was sharp, immediate, but then warmth. A heat that melted through Melinda's body like liquid light. Her knees buckled, but Carol caught her, holding her close, her arms protective even as she drank. It wasn't violent. It wasn't brutal. It was intimate. A connection deeper than anything Melinda had ever felt. When Carol pulled back, her eyes were wet. "You taste like memories," she said, voice breaking. Melinda smiled weakly, dizzy but okay. "You feel like home." Carol held her tighter. "I'll never let them take you." "Then don't." They stood in silence, wrapped around each other. But outside, in the dark woods, something moved. Watching. Waiting. The storm had passed, but the real darkness was just beginning. The silence, after the bite, was deafening. Melinda lay curled in Carol's arms on the dusty old mattress, her body warm and trembling, breath shallow but steady. Carol held her like she was something fragile, something sacred, something she never believed she'd touch again. Her lips brushed against Melinda's temple, not out of hunger now, but reverence. "You should hate me," Carol whispered. Melinda stirred slightly, her voice a soft murmur. "I don't. I could have lost control. But you didn't. You could have died. But I didn't." Carol pulled her closer, burying her face in Melinda's neck, inhaling deeply. It wasn't the scent of blood now, it was her. Her presence, her warmth, her defiance, her love. Everything that tethered Carol to the girl she used to be. Outside, the wind had died. But the woods surrounding the cabin held a different kind of silence now, an unnatural one. Carol felt it like a shift in gravity. She sat up, alert. "Something's wrong," she muttered. Melinda blinked, still groggy. "What?" "We're not alone." Carol moved to the window, her movements silent, predatory. Her eyes adjusted quickly to the moonlit dark, scanning the trees. Nothing. But she knew better than to trust the quiet. Vampires were never alone for long. "Pack your things," she said, voice low. "We're leaving."
"What? Now?"
Melinda sat up, clutching the blanket. "You're still recovering. And I'll recover faster if we're alive." Melinda didn't argue. She moved fast, grabbing her bag, stuffing it with whatever they'd taken from the car. Carol slipped on her coat and checked the door. Then she froze. A single flower had been left on the porch step. A dark red camellia. Melinda stepped behind her, confused. "What is that?" "It's a message," Carol said, voice barely audible. "They know where we are." "What does it mean?" Carol turned to her, her expression grim. "It means they won't wait for dawn." They ran. Back into the woods, under cover of night, flashlight off, relying only on Carol's unnatural senses to guide them. Melinda's breathing was heavy, her legs aching, but she didn't complain. She trusted Carol completely now, even when every instinct in her human body screamed to turn back. "There's an old church," Carol said. "Abandoned." No vamp can cross consecrated ground. So it's safe? For a while. They reached it just before midnight, a crumbling stone chapel swallowed by ivy and silence. Carol stepped onto the grounds first, testing it. The moment her foot crossed the threshold, her body tensed, as if something invisible pressed against her chest. She hissed slightly but kept walking. Still hold some of its sanctity, she said through clenched teeth. I'll survive. Melinda helped her inside. The pews were covered in moss and dust. A shattered stained glass window cast shards of color over the wooden floor. They settled near the altar, breathing heavily, hearts pounding in rhythm. They're close, Carol said. They won't enter. But they'll wait. So, what do we do? Melinda asked. We rest, Carol replied. We prepare. For what? For war. The word hung in the air like thunder. Carol leaned back against the wall, exhausted. Melinda sat beside her, heart still racing. Why do they want you so badly? She asked. Carol looked away. Because I broke the oldest rule. I felt something. I loved someone. I made myself weak. Melinda frowned. Love isn't weakness. To them it is. Vampires don't love. They feed. They dominate. They destroy. But me? I remembered you. Every night. Every full moon. Every time I fed. I thought of the way you looked at me when we were 16. And that makes you dangerous? Carol turned to her, eyes fierce. It makes me unpredictable. They want obedience, not emotion. So when I left, when I ran from their control, I became a threat. Melinda reached out, cupping Carol's face. You're not a threat.
You're still you.
Carol leaned into the touch, her eyes fluttering closed. I don't know if that's true anymore. It is, Melinda said firmly. Because I see you. And I still want you. Carol's lips parted, the tension between them reigniting instantly. But before she could close the distance, a sound echoed through the chapel walls. A voice.
Male. Cold.
Little fledgling. Still playing human. Carol stood, fists clenched. You won't touch her. We don't need to, the voice taunted. She'll die either way. You'll watch. And then you'll come crawling back to us. You always do. Melinda stood beside her, shaking. Who is that? His name's Lucien, Carol growled. One of the elders. He's been after me since I escaped. Can he get in? Not tonight. But he'll wait. And when we step outside, Carol didn't finish. Melinda swallowed hard. Then we fight. Carol looked at her, stunned. You'd stay? I'd die for you, Melinda said without hesitation. Carol's jaw tightened. Don't say that. It's true. Don't make me choose between saving you and losing myself. Melinda reached for her hand. Then don't. We survive this. Together. Carol gripped her fingers tightly. I swear to you, Melinda, I won't let them take you. And I won't let you go back to who you were running from. Outside, the night pressed in like a cage. Shadows moved just beyond the chapel's reach. But inside, two hearts beat in unison, one mortal, one undead, bound by a love that refused to die. And for the first time, Carol believed they might have a future. If they could survive the night. The candle had almost burned out. Its flickering light cast long, broken shadows against the chapel's crumbling stone walls, and Melinda watched as the wax slowly melted into a trembling pool beside them. Hours had passed, or maybe days, it was hard to tell anymore. Time inside this place felt suspended, like the air was too heavy for minutes to move. Outside, the world waited in silence, broken only by the occasional sound of branches cracking under feet that never stumbled, only stalked. Lucien hadn't spoken in a while, but his presence was a pressure, like a storm just beyond the edge of hearing. Carol hadn't sat down once. She paced like a wolf in a cage, eyes glowing faintly as the night dragged on. Her fists clenched and unclenched. Melinda wanted to reach for her, but she also knew better than to interrupt that kind of silence. He's waiting for me to break, Carol said finally. That's what he does. He doesn't always fight with teeth. Sometimes he just waits until you tear yourself apart. He won't break you, Melinda said softly. Carol turned to her, and for a moment, she looked young again, like the girl Melinda used to know.
He already did.
Years ago. Melinda stood and crossed the space between them. Then tell me. Let me carry some of it with you. Carol shook her head, but Melinda touched her face, gently. You don't have to protect me from your pain. Yes, I do, Carol whispered. It's the only thing I can still control. No, Melinda said. It's the thing that's still controlling you. That cracked something open. Carol exhaled shakily, her hands trembling. She sat down at last, and Melinda joined her on the floor near the altar. The air between them was charged, not with lust this time, but with a deep, aching vulnerability. He found me after I turned, Carol said, her voice quiet, like she was confessing to the dark. Said I had promise.
Beauty. Power.
He trained me, broke me, taught me how to kill, how to seduce, how to forget what it meant to be human. Every time I cried, he laughed. Every time I hesitated, he punished me. And every time I remembered you, he made me bleed for it. Melinda's throat tightened. He tortured you. He reprogrammed me, Carol said bitterly. Until I didn't know where he ended and I began. But I never forgot you. Not even when I wanted to. Melinda took her hand. You never stopped being you. I can see it in the way you still flinch at kindness. That made Carol look at her. You see too much. Then stop hiding. Carol reached out slowly, her fingers brushing against Melinda's cheek. You're the only thing that feels real anymore. Melinda leaned into her touch. Then hold on to me. Their lips met again, softer this time. Not desperate. Not hungry. Just real. A kiss that said I know you. I remember. I want you still. When they parted, Carol rested her forehead against Melinda's. He'll use you against me, she said. He'll threaten you to control me. Then don't let him. I'm not as strong as you think. You're stronger than you know. The candle went out. Darkness wrapped around them like a second skin. And then the voice came again, whispered, echoing from all directions at once. You're not hers, Carol. You're mine. Carol stood slowly. You'll never touch her, she said into the dark. You said that once before, Lucien replied. Before you begged. Melinda saw Carol's jaw clench, her whole body braced. That wasn't me.
It was.
It always will be. You belong to me, and no human pet is going to change that. She already has. The wind howled outside. The chapel trembled. Melinda rose and stood beside Carol. Why does he hate me so much? She asked. Because I'd choose you over him, Carol said. And he can't stand not being chosen. The voice laughed, low and cruel. Do you want to tell her how many you've killed? Carol flinched. How many begged you for mercy? Stop, Carol said through gritted teeth. How many were young, pretty, just like her? I said stop. Carol roared, her voice echoing off the walls. Melinda touched her arm gently. He's trying to unmake you. Don't let him. Carol closed her eyes. He knows what I regret. He's pulling the worst of me to the surface. Then fight it with the best of you. You, Carol whispered. You're the best of me. Melinda wrapped her arms around her, holding tight. Then let me in. All the way. No more hiding. No more shame. Carol buried her face in Melinda's shoulder. For the first time since returning, she wept. Quiet, broken sobs that tore through her like a storm. Melinda held her through it, whispering words she didn't even realize she knew. Words of comfort, of forgiveness, of love. Outside, Lucien fell silent. And that silence was worse than his voice. Carol looked up, something steel-hard in her eyes now. He'll come at sunrise. If he can't break me, he'll kill us both. Then we run?
No.
Then we end this. We can't fight him.
No.
But I can challenge him. To what?
To death.
Melinda's breath caught. That's suicide. It's a vampire's right. If I invoke it, he has to accept. One-on-one. No weapons. No magic. Just strength. Can you win? Carol didn't answer. Melinda cupped her face again. Then let's run. Forget the challenge. Let's just go. We can't, Carol said. He'll hunt you forever. We can't keep hiding. Then let me fight with you. You already are. They sat in silence again, the weight of morning pressing toward them. But in the quiet, they found something else, something fierce and unspoken. Love not as a feeling, but as a decision, a choice. The same one they would both have to make before sunrise. Outside, the first gray light bled into the edges of the trees. The final night was ending, and the reckoning was about to begin. The first light of dawn spilled across the forest like blood diluted in water, pale and ghostly. Inside the chapel, the air was different now, thinner, colder, charged with something ancient and final. Carol stood in the center of the open nave, her coat discarded, her shirt torn from the night before. Her body was still healing from the last fight, slow tremors beneath her skin betraying the pain she refused to show. Melinda sat nearby, arms wrapped around herself, watching her in silence, heart pounding so loud it felt like it might break through her chest. There's still time to run, Melinda said quietly. There's not, Carol replied, voice calm but resolute. He'll find us wherever we go. If I don't face him now, he'll never stop. And if he kills you? Carol looked at her, eyes softening. Then I'll die knowing I came back for the right reason. Melinda stood, crossing the space between them. Let me say goodbye, at least. Don't, Carol whispered. It'll make it harder to walk away. I don't care. Melinda grabbed her face and kissed her hard. No hesitation, no fear, just everything she'd been holding inside since the moment Carol returned. Carol kissed her back like it was the last time, hands in Melinda's hair, mouth hungry not for blood, but for memory, for hope, for the girl she used to dream of. When they parted, Carol leaned her forehead against Melinda's. If I don't come back, you will, Melinda cut in. You have to. Footsteps.
Slow.
Crunching leaves just beyond the chapel's broken doors. The sound of inevitability. Carol turned, her body already shifting into something darker, more feral. Her eyes glowed like fire. Lucien stepped through the ruined archway as if he owned it. He wore a long black coat, his blonde hair tied back, his eyes glowing amber and mouth curled into a cruel smile. Such drama, he said, glancing at Melinda with mild disgust. Still playing savior, little fledgling? She's not yours, Carol growled. She never was. Everything you touch becomes mine, eventually. Not her. We'll see. Carol stepped forward. I challenge you, by blood and name. Lucien's grin widened. So formal. How quaint. One-on-one. No weapons. No interference. Accepted, he said without hesitation. I've waited too long for this anyway. Then we begin. And then they moved so fast Melinda barely saw it happen. One moment they were standing, the next they were colliding in midair, claws and teeth, shadows and violence. The chapel shook. Stone cracked. The air filled with snarls, hisses, and the sound of bodies slamming into wood and wall. Melinda backed away, heart in her throat. Carol fought like she was born for this, vicious, graceful, terrifying. But Lucien was older, stronger. He moved like a storm, calculated, cruel, precise. Every time Carol landed a blow, he returned it twice as hard. Blood stained the floor. Carol grunted as he threw her against the altar, splinters embedding in her back. You're still weak, Lucien sneered. Because of her. No, Carol hissed. Because I'm not like you. She lunged again, biting into his shoulder, tearing flesh. He screamed and slammed her into the wall, fangs bared. You'll never win. I already did the moment she loved me. That made him snap. He grabbed her throat, lifting her off the ground. Melinda screamed. Carol. Carol kicked hard, breaking free, but she stumbled when she landed.
She was bleeding heavily now.
Slower. Lucien saw it too. He circled her like a vulture. She'll watch you die. And then she'll beg me to make her forget. Melinda moved. Not away, but forward. She ran toward them, grabbing a fallen piece of broken wood, sharp at the end. Get away from her. Lucien turned too late. Melinda drove the makeshift stake into his back, right below his shoulder blade. He roared, spinning and slamming her to the ground. Her head hit the stone with a sickening crack. She went limp. No. Carol's voice wasn't human anymore. It was a scream ripped from the core of something ancient and furious. She launched herself at Lucien, all restraint gone. The fight turned savage.
Wild.
Carol wasn't trying to win anymore. She was trying to destroy. She slammed him to the floor, punched until his face broke, bit until he screamed, and when he reached for her again, she broke his arm. Then his ribs. Then his neck. This is for her, she whispered, and drove her claws into his chest, ripping through bone. Lucien gasped once. Then he stopped moving. Silence. Carol stood over his body, shaking, covered in blood. She turned. Melinda wasn't moving. Melinda? Carol rushed to her, falling to her knees. Mel, please. She lifted her, cradled her, felt for a pulse.
Faint. Fading.
No, stay with me. Melinda's eyes fluttered. Did you win?
Yes.
I won.
Please don't die.
Melinda's lips curved into a faint smile. Told you you would. Then her body went still. Her breath stopped. No, Carol held her tighter. Don't do this. Not like this. Please. But Melinda didn't respond. Her heart had stopped. And Carol screamed. Carol's hands trembled as she cradled Melinda's still body, blood drying on both of them, the morning light filtering through the shattered stained glass above like a lie. Time stretched and collapsed all at once, and in that moment, nothing existed outside the soundless scream echoing inside her skull. She pressed her ear to Melinda's chest. Silence. No heartbeat. Her blood had already begun to cool. Carol sobbed once, violent, raw, choking on it. No, she whispered, over and over, as if the repetition could undo the laws of mortality. Please. She had held 1,000 dying bodies in her life, fed from dozens, killed more than she could ever admit, but none of them ever meant anything. None of them had been her. None of them had been the girl with ink on her fingers and fire in her words, who touched Carol like she wasn't afraid of the monster. Carol's forehead rested against Melinda's as she wept. I told you I'd protect you. I told you I wouldn't let them take you.
But I didn't count on this.
On losing you to death itself. She looked down, stared at Melinda's lips.
Blue. Still.
She touched her cheek, cold. Too cold. I don't want to do this, she whispered. But I can't let you go. Her hands shook as she pulled Melinda's body tighter. Forgive me, she begged. Please forgive me. And then she bit. Not to feed. Not to hurt. But to give. Her fangs slid into Melinda's neck with unnatural precision. Carol drank, not the blood, not this time, but the soul of the moment, the memory of a kiss, the last warmth of the girl who'd once made her feel human again. Then she pulled away. Her wrist came next. She tore into it, the blood welling dark and hot, and pressed it to Melinda's lips. Drink, she whispered. Come back to me. Nothing. Drink, please, she cried. You don't have to go. You don't have to die like this. She held her tighter, pressing the blood against her mouth, her heart pounding with terror.
Come on, Mel.
Just one drop. You always were stubborn. A twitch. The faintest flicker of movement in Melinda's fingers. Carol gasped.
Yes.
That's it.
Come on. Take it.
Take me. Melinda's lips parted slightly. The blood touched her tongue. Then her throat moved.
Once. Twice. Swallowing.
Carol's tears fell harder. That's it. That's my girl. Come back. Melinda jerked suddenly, her back arching, a gasp tearing from her throat like resurrection. Her eyes flew open, wide, wild, glowing faintly red. Carol held her as her body convulsed, as her heartbeat returned with a thunderclap of panic and power. It's okay, she whispered. It's okay, I've got you. But Melinda didn't hear her. She screamed. A sound that shattered the morning like glass, like grief, like rebirth. Carol held her through it, rocking her, whispering nonsense, trying to soothe a storm that had no language. It lasted for minutes or hours. Carol couldn't tell. Time bent around the blood. Finally, Melinda stilled. Her breathing slowed. Her eyes closed. When she opened them again, the red glow had faded. What remained was something else entirely. Melinda blinked, dazed. "Carol?" Her voice was raspy. Carol nodded, tears still falling. "I'm here." "I was dying," she said slowly. "You did it." "I had no choice," Carol whispered. "You were gone. So you're like me now." Melinda sat up slowly, her hands shaking. "Everything feels different.
Loud. Bright.
Like I can hear the dirt in the ground. It'll pass. The senses are overwhelmed at first." Melinda looked at her. "Did you know it would hurt like that?" "Yes," Carol said softly. "And you still did it." "Because I love you." Melinda exhaled, her eyes filling. "I don't know what I am." "You're still you," Carol said. "That won't change." Melinda touched her own chest. "It's so quiet, but also so loud. I can feel the blood under my skin. It's not mine. It is now." "Will I lose myself?" Carol took her hand. "Only if you let go of who you are. And I'll be here. Every second. I won't let you disappear. Promise." "I swear it." Silence fell between them again. But it wasn't the kind that suffocated. It was full of things neither of them could yet say. Then Melinda looked down at her fingers. "I don't feel like me." "You will," Carol said. "Soon." "I'm scared." "So was I." "But you were alone." "You're not." Melinda nodded slowly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Thank you for not letting me die." "I almost did," Carol whispered. "I almost let you go. I didn't want to curse you with this. You gave me a second chance. I gave you damnation. You gave me you." Carol's heart cracked open at those words. She pulled Melinda into her arms again and held her like she was the last warmth in a dying world. Outside, the sun had risen, but inside, two creatures of night clung to each other, reborn through blood and bound by a love that had defied every rule, every death, every monster. And now, they weren't just running anymore. They were rising. They didn't stop moving. After the transformation, after Melinda took her first breath as something no longer human, Carol packed their things with hands still shaking, and they disappeared into the forest before the sun could truly rise. Days passed in blurs of motion and silence, of teaching and tasting, of desire buried beneath necessity. Melinda didn't speak much in the first day. Her senses were too loud. The world was an orchestra of chaos. Every heartbeat in the forest, every insect crawling under leaves, every shift in the wind became a scream in her mind. Carol stayed close but gave her space. She knew what it was to drown in the noise. At night, they slept curled together in abandoned barns and ruined houses, breathing the same air, skin against skin, hearts sinking in an unnatural rhythm. Melinda fed only once, on a deer, trembling and apologizing with every drop. "I'm not ready to hurt someone," she whispered after, blood staining her mouth. Carol cupped her face. "You don't have to. Not yet. Maybe not ever." "Will it always feel this alive?" "Yes," Carol said. "But that's not a bad thing." Melinda leaned into her touch. "It scares me how much I need you now." "You always did," Carol whispered. "You just didn't know it yet." But the peace couldn't last. On the third night, as they moved through the ruins of a forgotten town, they felt it, pressure in the air, cold and ancient, like eyes watching from the shadows of time itself. Carol froze. "They know." "The council?" "Yes." Melinda's stomach twisted. "What will they do?" "They'll send someone first. Not to kill.
To collect.
To bring you to them."
Why?
"Because you're unregistered, unauthorized, transformed by a fugitive. That makes you valuable. Or expendable." "You mean they'll use me?" Or, destroy me. Exactly. Then we fight. Carol looked at her, surprised. You'd fight them? For you? Melinda smiled darkly. I'd fight the whole damn world. That night, they made camp in a cave carved into a cliff, high above the valley. It was cold, but safe for now. Carol lit a fire, more out of habit than necessity, and Melinda sat close beside her, their legs touching, warmth passing between them that had nothing to do with flame. You're changing, Carol said. I can feel it. Do you hate it? Melinda asked. No, Carol whispered. It terrifies me. But I've never loved you more. Melinda turned to her. Then don't run from it. Their kiss was slower this time. No fear, no blood, just skin and heat and truth. Melinda climbed onto Carol's lap, straddling her, hands in her hair, their mouths moving in perfect sync. Carol's hands slid under her shirt, fingers grazing her back, and Melinda gasped into the kiss. I need you, she whispered. You have me. Clothes came off like memories, discarded gently, piece by piece, until there was nothing left between them but need. Melinda's fangs grazed Carol's collarbone, not to feed, but to feel. Carol moaned, her fingers gripping Melinda's hips, guiding her. Their bodies moved together in a rhythm older than words, a dance of love and grief and hunger and hope. Melinda bit down gently, not to draw blood, but to mark her. Mine, she whispered. Always, Carol breathed. When it was over, they lay tangled in each other, hearts pounding. Melinda's skin glowed faintly in the firelight, her lips swollen, her eyes soft. I don't feel human, she said. Because you're not. But I still feel like me. That's all that matters. A noise outside. Sharp. Purposeful. Carol sat up instantly, senses flaring. They're here. Melinda was on her feet, dressed in seconds. How many? Carol stepped to the mouth of the cave.
One.
For now. A figure stepped from the shadows, tall, cloaked in black. A woman, elegant, ancient, eyes silver like frozen fire.
Carol, she said.
You've caused quite a stir. Armandra, Carol replied, voice tight. Still sending yourself instead of pawns? You're worth the visit, Armandra said. Her eyes flicked to Melinda. So this is the fledgling. Melinda stood her ground. I have a name. Of course you do, Armandra smiled. They always do. Carol stepped in front of her. She's not going with you. She doesn't belong to you. She doesn't belong to you either. Armandra tilted her head. She broke the law. You broke a dozen more. The council will want to speak to both of you. And if we refuse? Melinda asked. Armandra smiled. Then they'll send others. Not to talk. So, what's this? Carol demanded. A warning. An invitation, Armandra replied. Come willingly. Or be hunted. And what happens if we do come? You'll be judged. Separated. She'll be tested. You'll be punished. And if we don't? Armandra's eyes darkened. Then you'll both die. Slowly. Silence stretched. Then Melinda stepped forward. Tell them we're not running. Not anymore. Mel, Carol warned. But Melinda didn't flinch. Let them come. Let them try. If they want to tear us apart, they'll have to kill us first. Armandra's smile faded. So be it. And then she vanished.
Gone.
The air stilled. Carol turned to Melinda. You just declared war. I know, Melinda said. And I meant every word. You're reckless. I'm in love. That's the most dangerous thing you can be. Then let's be dangerous together. Carol pulled her into a kiss that tasted like the beginning of the end. Outside, the wind began to howl. The council was coming. But this time, they wouldn't run. They would rise. The wind tore through the valley like a scream, cold and sharp, howling against the mouth of the cave, where two lovers stood facing the edge of annihilation. Melinda's hand was wrapped tightly around Carol's, their fingers laced like armor, like truth, like a vow. They had chosen not to run. Not this time. Not anymore. Dawn hovered behind the mountains, but the sky was still dark with storm clouds, fitting for a war that had nothing to do with light. The council came just after the final star faded. A dozen figures cloaked in black, gliding like shadows down the stone path. Armandra led them, her silver eyes unreadable. They moved without sound, but the world seemed to hold its breath as they approached. "Carol Nightborn," Armandra called out, voice clear and cold. "You stand accused of breaking the blood accord, defying the elders, and performing an unsanctioned turning. Step forward and surrender." Carol said nothing. Melinda took a step with her instead. "You'll have to kill both of us," she said, "because we don't surrender." Armandra's lips curled. "You speak boldly for someone barely out of her grave." "I speak boldly because I have something worth dying for," Melinda replied. "That's more than any of you can say." A murmur passed through the council. Carol stepped forward then, her voice low but resonant. "I didn't turn her to make a weapon. I didn't do it to break your laws. I did it because she was dying. Because I love her. And I won't apologize for that." Armandra raised a hand. "You broke ancient law." "Then maybe ancient law is broken," Carol said. "Maybe it's time someone did. Your arrogance will be your end." "So be it." In one motion, the council moved. No more words. No more threats. Just violence. Shadows leapt forward, claws bared, fangs flashing. But Melinda was ready. She moved like a storm, her new strength refined by desperation, love, and instinct. Carol was beside her, a blur of fury and grace. They fought back to back, every blow calculated, every movement a dance. Melinda felt the world slow around her. For the first time, she wasn't drowning in her power. She was wielding it. She threw one of the elders across the rocks, snapped another's neck with a twist of her body. Carol tore through them like wildfire, beautiful and terrifying, her face a mask of rage and devotion. But they were outnumbered, wounded,
Exhausted.
and when Armandra stepped forward, everything stopped. "Enough," she commanded, and the others froze instantly. She stepped toward them slowly, eyes on Melinda. "You've caused quite a stir, little fledgling." Melinda raised her chin. "Then finish it." Armandra looked between them, calculating. "You love her that much?" "More than anything," Melinda said. "Then would you die for her?" "Yes," Melinda said. "Would you kill for her?" "I already have." "Would you burn for her?" Carol stepped in. "Stop. Don't test her." Armandra's expression shifted, something like intrigue in her ancient face. "This is why we fear love. Because it makes fools of us all." She raised her hand again and struck. Melinda barely saw it coming. A blast of invisible force slammed into her chest, sending her flying across the rocks. She hit the ground hard, gasping, pain tearing through her. Carol screamed her name and ran to her, but Armandra moved faster. She blocked her path.
"This is mercy," she said.
"You should have let her die as a human." "You don't get to decide who lives," Carol growled.
"No."
"But I decide who dies." And then everything happened at once. Carol lunged. Armandra struck. Melinda rose from the ground with blood in her mouth and fire in her chest. "And oh," she roared, and the power inside her broke free. A wave of force exploded from her, knocking back the elders, shaking the ground itself. Armandra staggered, caught off guard. Carol reached her, fangs bared, and drove her claws into her chest. Armandra gasped. "You would destroy everything for her." "I already did," Carol whispered. "Now die for it." She ripped her heart out. Armandra crumpled, lifeless. Silence. Then chaos. The council hesitated. Leaderless.
Shaken.
Melinda stood at Carol's side, bloodied, panting, her eyes glowing with a light that didn't belong to monsters. "Leave," she said to the others. "Or stay and burn." One by one, the elders stepped back, then vanished. Just like that, it was over. Carol collapsed to her knees. Melinda caught her. They held each other in the middle of the battlefield, shaking, breathless, alive. "You killed her," Melinda whispered. "I killed for you," Carol said. And I'd do it again. You shouldn't have had to. You shouldn't have died. Melinda smiled weakly. Guess we're both bad at letting go.
Good, Carol said.
Because I'm never letting you go again. They kissed there, surrounded by ashes and broken stone, the morning sun finally breaking through the clouds. It warmed their skin, even if it no longer belonged to them. In the days that followed, they disappeared again, this time not to run, but to live. Together. On their own terms. They found a house deep in the mountains, far from cities, far from rules, far from fear. Melinda learned how to feed without regret. Carol learned how to forgive herself. They spent their nights wrapped in each other, their days hidden from the world that tried to tear them apart. And when the memories came, of death, of pain, of fire, they held each other through it. Because they had won. Not the war, but something deeper. They had chosen each other. Again and again. In life. In death. In everything in between. And no council, no ancient code, no monster ever born would take that from them again. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.